The galaxy was filled with voices, signals, and data flowing in every direction, as alien species observed the many worlds that dotted the stars. But one planet, Earth, had long been the subject of particular fascination and concern. Earth was a young species, wild, unpredictable, and often dangerous. But it was also one of the fastest-growing civilizations the galaxy had ever seen. Its potential was vast, but so were its risks. For centuries, Earth's transmissions had been picked up by countless alien factions, some watching in awe, others in fear. But one thing was certain: humanity's behavior was erratic. Its technological leaps had come fast, and sometimes dangerously. Wars had raged across its surface. Unstable governments rose and fell. And every step humanity took toward the stars only seemed to deepen the mystery of their intentions. No one knew whether humanity would become an ally, a threat, or something else entirely. Then, without warning, the silence descended. It began subtly, like a whisper in the dark. At first, the normal channels of communication, broadcasts, signals, space traffic, dropped off at irregular intervals. The Council of the Galactic Federation, a loose coalition of the galaxy's most powerful species, hadn't thought much of it. Just another malfunction, they'd assumed. Maybe a glitch in the data streams. But days turned into weeks, and Earth's once vibrant communications networks remained silent. And it wasn't just a drop in radio chatter. It was as if Earth itself had gone dark. The Wivrak, an ancient and technologically advanced species with a reputation for being ruthless in their pursuit of knowledge, were the first to notice the anomaly. Their network of surveillance satellites, which had been monitoring Earth for centuries, simply stopped functioning. No signal, no data, no nothing. At first, their scientists assumed some kind of electromagnetic storm had disrupted the feeds. Humans were known for their turbulent solar activity. But this was different. The silence didn't make sense. Within hours, the Yoivrak fleet's command center was in chaos. Systems that should have been able to break through any communication barriers were stymied. An entire species, one that had been relentlessly studied for centuries, had simply gone quiet. Had humanity been destroyed? They wondered. Or had they found a way to shut us out? It wasn't long before other factions began to notice the same thing. The Zilkor Collective, a race of psychic beings, confirmed that Earth's mental frequencies, once easily readable, were now shrouded in a dense, impenetrable fog. The Rixians, a militaristic insectoid race that had once viewed humans as mere pawns in their galactic chessboard, sensed an ominous shift. The questions multiplied. The most chilling possibility began to take shape. What if humanity had finally realized its potential and had chosen this silence as a weapon? This continuation dives deeper into the mystery of Earth's silence, setting the stage for alien factions to grow paranoid, while also hinting at the technological sophistication of humanity. The sense of unease and the unknown builds tension, keeping the reader engaged and eager to find out what happens next. The Yoivrak strike force was swift. They dispatched a fleet of advanced reconnaissance ships to Earth, each cloaked in near-perfect stealth technology, designed to avoid detection by even the most sophisticated human defense systems. They had no choice. Earth's sudden disappearance from the galactic network was an anomaly, and the Livrak had long regarded humanity as a species too dangerous to be left unchecked. Now, with the entire planet locked in a silence that could not be explained, it was clear that Earth had evolved beyond what anyone had expected. The Yoivrak fleet approached Earth's orbit cautiously, their sensors pinging as they crossed into the planet's electromagnetic boundary. It was supposed to be a routine scan, one that would reveal any signs of catastrophic events, natural disasters, or even an alien threat. But what they found instead was more puzzling and far more unsettling. The first thing that struck them was the absence of human signals. The space surrounding Earth was eerily quiet. No transmissions, no satellite pings, nothing. The planet's atmosphere, normally alive with hundreds of thousands of active frequencies, was now as still as deep space. Even the usual hum of Earth's planetary radio waves was gone. The Yovrak's lead ship, Exarath, sent out several probes to scan the surface, looking for any signs of human life. They found nothing. The Yovrak landed on Earth with a sense of urgency, but also of disbelief. The cities, once teeming with human activity, now stood abandoned, silent and pristine, as if frozen in time. Vast metropolitan centres like New York, Tokyo, and Paris lay undisturbed, their towering skyscrapers unblemished, their streets empty. No vehicles, no lights, no movement. It was as though humanity had simply vanished. Yet the silence was unsettling, too perfect. It was too precise for a mass extinction event. If the humans had died, there would have been some trace, chaos in the streets, the remnants of communication scrambling to make sense of a disaster. But instead, it was as if the very heartbeat of Earth had been erased. No bodies, no signals, just an unnatural calm. At first, the Yevrak believed that Earth's systems had been disabled by some kind of external force, a massive EMP, a planet-wide blackout. But their scans revealed something far more disturbing. Earth's defences were still active, intact, operational, but locked down, as though they were waiting for something. The very systems they'd been tracking were being suppressed by something more powerful, a signal they couldn't pinpoint, something invisible but undeniably present. Then a transmission broke through. It was brief, so faint, so garbled, that it could have easily been dismissed as noise. But the Yevrak, experienced in deciphering fractured communications, recognized it immediately. The transmission wasn't just a distress beacon, as they had first suspected. It was deliberate, a warning. This is Earth. We are the ones who will silence you. The words echoed in the minds of the Yevrak fleet, sending a cold shiver down the spine of every officer on the command deck. The message wasn't from any human they had ever encountered. It wasn't a plea for help. It was a statement of power, a challenge. The Yevrak had been investigating Earth, but now, it seemed, they had become the target. As the transmission faded, the Yevrak captain, Commander Arath, stood frozen, his mind racing. What had humanity done? What had they become? And more importantly, what did they want? In this continuation, the stakes are raised as the Yevrak come face to face with the mystery of Earth's silence, setting the stage for their growing paranoia and the revelation of Earth's hidden power. The faint but chilling transmission at the end leaves the audience with a sense of dread and anticipation for what's to come. The message had come through as a shock, reverberating across the Yevrak fleet with a harsh clarity. We are the ones who will silence you. It wasn't just a warning, it was a promise. But the Yevrak were too proud, too confident in their technological superiority to be easily intimidated. The question wasn't what Earth had done, it was how they had done it. Commander Arath of the Yevrak had long studied humanity, but this was something beyond even their wildest calculations. The galaxy's most advanced technologies, when applied to monitoring Earth, had been swept aside by an invisible force. There were no signs of any catastrophic event, no evidence of war, no unusual atmospheric shifts. It was as if Earth had erased itself from the galactic map, willingly, but with a clear intent. Back on the Yuvrak homeworld, the news spread like wildfire. The Federation's council convened an emergency meeting, summoning representatives from the galaxy's most powerful species. The council chambers were abuzz with anxious voices, each race more alarmed than the last. "We have never seen anything like this," said Cyphora, a Rylorian diplomat, her voice tinged with unease. The Rylorians, a race known for their deep psychic abilities, could no longer detect any thoughts or emotions from Earth. For a species that thrived on telepathy, this was nothing short of incomprehensible. "The humans are hiding something," General Zale, a massive, insectoid Rixian leader, growled. His mandibles clicked with a sharpness that punctuated his words. "I've always known they were trouble. This is their chance to strike. If they have developed a weapon that can shut us out completely, imagine what else they can do." A tense murmur swept through the room. Earth's silence was unlike any tactic they had anticipated. It was one thing to think that humanity might have evolved to the point of becoming a galactic threat, but another entirely to realize that Earth might already possess the means to make that reality. On the opposite side of the chamber, Commander Eva Roth, the Terracan envoy and Earth sympathizer, stood up slowly. The Terracans had long advocated for peace and cooperation with humanity, helping Earth during its earliest ventures into space. But even Ava couldn't deny the growing fear in her heart. She knew the humans better than anyone in the room, and even she was struggling to piece together the mystery of what had happened. "I understand your concerns," Ava said, her voice calm but firm. "But we cannot act out of fear. Earth isn't some rogue planet looking to conquer the galaxy. They're different. The silence isn't a declaration of war. It's a response." Zal's eyes narrowed. "A response to what?" "To being watched," Eva replied. "Humans have known they were being observed for generations. Maybe, just maybe, Earth's silence is not a sign of aggression, but a declaration of independence." Her words were met with a wave of skepticism, but Eva wasn't finished. "I've seen what humans are capable of. They aren't just a species that builds weapons. They adapt. They fight back. The Eclipse Protocol. It's something they've been preparing for a long time." The room grew still. The Eclipse Protocol. Even those not familiar with Earth's darkest secrets had heard rumors of this program. A failsafe designed by humanity's highest military echelons, something hidden in their classified files. But no one knew the full extent of it. If Earth had activated that system, it meant they had a plan, and that plan wasn't just for survival. It was for power. "The question is," Ava continued, "whether we want to risk pushing them into becoming something we don't understand." Before anyone could respond, the communication officer's voice rang out. "Urgent transmission from Earth, Council members. It's encrypted, but it's not a general message. It's a direct request from Earth's remaining leadership." A heavy silence fell over the chamber as the transmission was transmitted into the room. The encrypted message flickered to life, and a holographic image appeared. A tall, broad-shouldered man with dark hair, dressed in military fatigues. His face was stern, yet resolute. "This is Commander Max Keller of the United Earth Forces." The man's voice echoed, steady and strong. "To the Galactic Federation, hear this. Humanity is no longer a pawn in your games. You have watched us, you have studied us, and now you will listen. We are not your enemies, but we will fight if you force us. This is your final warning. Our silence is not a weakness. It is the beginning of something far greater." The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving the room in stunned silence. The implications were clear. Humanity was no longer playing by the Federation's rules. Earth had moved beyond being a passive observer of galactic affairs. What began as a mysterious silence was now shaping into a direct challenge. The Council's deliberations had just taken a darker turn. The question was no longer about Earth's fate, it was about the galaxy's. This part continues to escalate the tension and intrigue as the Council reacts to humanity's cryptic message and the growing realization that Earth is no longer the fragile species they once assumed. The plot deepens, with the stakes rising as the threat of humanity's newfound power looms large. Ava Roth sat in the council chamber, her mind racing. She had heard the transmission from Commander Max Keller, just as the rest of them had. Heard the chilling confidence in his voice, the promise that Earth was no longer a subject to be observed. The implications were staggering. Humanity, it seemed, had been preparing for this moment long before the Wojrak silence, long before the Council had even noticed them. But for what purpose? The data from Earth was sparse, but Ava had spent years studying Earth's military history, its classified archives. There was one program in particular that had haunted her, something called Project Eclipse. Rumours had circulated about it for decades, but it was one of those topics that was shrouded in secrecy. Even Ava had only heard whispers, fragments of information passed through back channels. She stood before a holographic display, a map of the Earth, focusing on the coordinates of long-forgotten military bases, the ones hidden beneath the oceans or deep in isolated mountain ranges. These were the places where humanity's most advanced technologies were developed, far from the eyes of alien powers. The military had never fully shared its intentions, but now, with Earth's sudden silence, Eva began to piece together the fragments of a terrifying truth. The Eclipse Protocol was no ordinary defense initiative. It was more than just a safeguard against invasion. It was designed for something far more ambitious, a way to create a level of technological supremacy that would ensure Earth's survival in a universe teeming with stronger, more advanced races. But it wasn't only about defense, it was about control. Humanity had not just been preparing for their own protection. They had been preparing for a day when they would no longer be dependent on anyone, when they could shape their destiny and force the galaxy to recognize them as equals. As Eva dug deeper into the archives, she found blueprints for weapons systems that were unlike anything the Council had ever seen. Energy weapons capable of disrupting gravitational fields, cloaking technologies so advanced they could hide entire continents, and, most terrifying of all, quantum-based defense grids that could render entire fleets of ships powerless in an instant. These were not just defensive measures. They were offensive, designed to give Earth the power to strike before being struck. Ava's stomach twisted as she read through the protocols. This was never just about survival. This was a plan for domination. She felt a cold rush of dread. What if the silence wasn't just a show of power? What if humanity had activated Eclipse, not just to protect themselves, but to force the galaxy to acknowledge them as equals, or even masters? In the archives, Ava discovered something else. A series of encrypted messages, sent long before the current crisis, from high-ranking military officials to leaders around the world. The language was unmistakable, urgent, commanding, and filled with a sense of destiny. The messages spoke of an awakening, a moment of reckoning, and instructions to prepare humanity's most advanced assets. The final message was the most chilling. When the time comes, Earth will no longer be the hunted. We will become the hunters. Ava's hands trembled as she shut down the terminal. She had to warn the Council. Humanity had not simply disappeared. They had hidden, but not in fear. They had hidden to prepare, to bide their time until the moment was right to strike. As she walked toward the Council chambers, Her thoughts were heavy with the weight of what she had uncovered. Earth was not only declaring its independence, it was positioning itself to become a force that could challenge anyone, any empire, any species. Eva couldn't help but wonder, was humanity ready for the consequences of their own awakening? This part reveals the true scope of humanity's preparations, unraveling Earth's hidden agenda behind the Eclipse Protocol. The growing sense of foreboding intensifies as Eva comes to understand that Earth's silence is not just a response to alien interference, but a calculated move to assert itself as a galactic power. The stakes have risen, and humanity is no longer merely a passive player in the galaxy. They are positioning themselves for something far more dangerous. The Oivrak fleet, under Commander Arath's leadership, had come prepared for the worst. They knew Earth had long been a volatile species, unpredictable in its ambitions. But no one could have anticipated the sheer scale and sophistication of what they were about to face. As the Oivrak landed their strike force near Earth's largest military installation, deep in a forgotten desert wasteland, their first clue that something was off came not from the planet's surface, but from the sudden blackout of their comm systems. For a moment, everything went dark, as if their presence had triggered an unseen alarm. Their own sensors, designed to penetrate the densest of cloaking fields, had been scrambled. They couldn't even contact their ships in orbit. "It's begun," Arath muttered under his breath. They had expected some resistance, but this level of disruption meant that Earth's defenses were far more advanced than they had imagined, and they were only getting started. The ground trembled as automated drones began to rise from the Earth, sleek, insect-like machines with razor-sharp claws and pulsating energy shields. They emerged from hidden hangars, camouflaged beneath the sands and rocky outcrops, and moved with lethal precision. These weren't just combat units. They were sentient, designed with self-learning AI capable of adapting to any threat. And they had been waiting for this moment. "All units, stay sharp," Arath commanded, but his voice was barely heard above the roar of incoming fire. The Oivrak's energy shields flared as the drones opened fire, their plasma bolts streaking toward the alien invaders. The Oivrak soldiers dove for cover, but the drones were relentless. Their targeting systems were beyond anything the Oivrak had seen. Each shot seemed to find its mark, no matter how fast they moved. As the Oivrak attempted to regroup, the ground beneath them cracked open. A second wave of drones, larger and more heavily armed, emerged. These were war machines, designed to engage on a planetary scale. They carried artillery cannons and energy weapons capable of obliterating entire battalions. The Oivrak were caught in a pincer, surrounded by the relentless, evolving force of Earth's automated defenses. Arath's mind raced. These machines were built to withstand everything we've thrown at them, and they're adapting faster than we can. With their technology scrambled and their fleet on the defensive, the Oivrak were forced to pull back, retreating to their ships. But it was too late. The drones didn't just attack from the ground. Earth's orbital defenses had been activated, and dozens of satellite-based energy weapons aimed at their fleet. Within seconds, the first of the Oivrak's warships exploded in a burst of light, debris scattering across Earth's stratosphere. "What the hell?" Arath screamed as his ship's alarm systems blared, indicating a critical breach. The Oivrak's sophisticated armor had been no match for the combined might of Earth's deep space weapons. They were losing the fight. In a desperate bid to salvage the mission, Arath ordered a full retreat, signaling the fleet to disengage and return to the outer orbit. But Earth's defenses were faster than expected. As the remaining Oivrak ships attempted to break free from the atmosphere, a barrage of gravity warp missiles locked onto their trajectories, warping space-time to drag their vessels back down. One by one, the Uvrak fleet began to fall, caught in Earth's trap. Amid the chaos, a single thought gnawed at Commander Arath's mind. This was no accident. This wasn't a random activation. Earth had planned this. Their presence on the planet had triggered a system designed not only for protection, but for retaliation. The attack was coordinated, calculated, and the Uvrak were being taught a lesson they would never forget. Earth was no longer just a target, it was a fortress, and it was ready to fight back. In this part, the Uvrak experienced the full force of Earth's advanced defense systems, which are far more sophisticated and deadly than they had anticipated. The battle is fierce and brutal, with the Uvrak forced to retreat in the face of Earth's overwhelming technological superiority. The story escalates the stakes even further, showing that Earth is not only capable of defending itself, it is actively hunting those who dare to challenge it. The battle was over, but the damage was irreversible. The Uvrak fleet, once the pride of the galaxy, had been shattered by Earth's unexpected and overwhelming response. Of the 30 ships that had entered Earth's orbit, only a handful remained intact, and even they were heavily damaged. The Uvrak had retreated to their outer stations, licking their wounds and trying to make sense of what had just happened. In the silence that followed, Commander Arath sat in his command chair aboard the flagship Zarath, staring out at the vast emptiness of space. The damage reports flooded in, each one worse than the last. They had lost nearly half their fleet, their best technologies rendered useless by Earth's superior defenses. Their elite strike teams, once considered the deadliest force in the galaxy, had been all but wiped out by Earth's automated war machines. "We've underestimated them," Arath muttered, his voice hollow with disbelief. His mind couldn't fully accept what had just transpired. He had studied humanity for centuries, but this was something entirely new, an Earth that had grown far beyond anything they had prepared for. It wasn't just that they had the ability to fight back. It was that they had anticipated the exact moment the galaxy would come for them, and they had been ready. A soft chime interrupted his thoughts. A message from the Galactic Federation Council. He had known this was coming. "Commander Arath," said the voice of Cyphora, the Relorian diplomat. "You are ordered to report back to the Council at once. Your mission has failed." Arath clenched his jaw, trying to swallow his pride. "We were not prepared for the extent of their defenses. Earth's technologies have evolved beyond anything we anticipated." Cyphora's voice grew colder. "We are aware. The Relorians have confirmed that Earth's technology is not only defensive, it is offensive. And now we are looking at a situation far worse than anyone imagined. You failed to contain them. We need to discuss our next steps." The transmission cut off abruptly, and Arath sat back in his chair, staring out at the void. The Federation was panicking. The Uvrak had always been seen as the dominant force in the galaxy, but this encounter had exposed a weakness, one that wasn't just about power or technology, but about the nature of Earth itself. Meanwhile, in the heart of the galaxy, panic was spreading faster than the news of the Uvrak's defeat. The other species of the Galactic Federation had been following the situation with increasing concern. Earth's sudden emergence as a dominant force was a threat to the balance of power that had held the galaxy in check for millennia. If humanity could so easily overwhelm the Uvrak, what could they do next? The Zilkor Collective, a species of telepathic beings known for their strategic prowess, had already called an emergency summit of their highest-ranking officials. Their psychic abilities had been useless against Earth's new technology, an invisible force that seemed to shield the humans from any form of direct mental probing. "We have underestimated them as well," said a Zilkor elder, his thoughts broadcast across the telepathic network. Their silence was not a sign of weakness. It was a calculated move, a way to study us while we watched them. Earth has outpaced us all, and now it is in the hands of one species, the humans. The Rixian warlords had also convened. General Zael, their commander, had always thought of humanity as weak, fragile creatures. But now he was forced to admit the truth. Earth had become something far more dangerous. They had developed weapons that could cripple entire fleets, turn entire planets into fortresses. And then there was Ava Roth, the lone voice of reason within the Federation. A Terrican envoy to the Council, she had long advocated for peaceful relations with Earth, but even she could not ignore the fact that the balance of power had shifted. What had once been a fledgling species on the edge of galactic affairs was now positioned to dominate. Ava understood more than anyone the sheer potential of humanity, but she also knew how dangerous their ambition could be. "We must not engage them in open conflict," Ava warned during an emergency meeting. "Humanity is not like the other species we've encountered. They will not submit to our demands. If we force them into a corner, they will fight back harder than any of us can imagine." The Council was divided. Some called for immediate retaliation, others for negotiation. But the truth was clear. Earth had awakened, and it would no longer play by the rules of the Federation. Back on Earth, Commander Max Keller watched the stars from his command center, his hands clasped behind his back. He had made the call to activate the Eclipse Protocol. Now, humanity had to prepare for what came next, an era where Earth wasn't just a planet in the galaxy, it was the galaxy's most formidable power. In this part, the true scope of Earth's power becomes clear to the galaxy, and the Federation begins to fracture over how to deal with the new reality. Humanity's rise has set off a chain reaction, and while some factions consider negotiation, others see only the threat of Earth's rise to power. The stage is set for a larger conflict, one where humanity's future and the fate of the galaxy hang in the balance. Across the galaxy, the news of the Yorvrak's defeat spread like wildfire, and with it, a chilling realization began to settle over the Galactic Federation. Earth was no longer a vulnerable, fledgling species. It was a threat, and a powerful one at that. The previously unthinkable had happened. Humanity had grown beyond the shadows of its past, and now it stood as a force capable of challenging the Federation's dominance over the stars. The Federation Council's emergency meeting had extended into days, with no clear consensus emerging. The Rylorians, who had once viewed Earth with a mixture of pity and curiosity, were now scrambling to recalibrate their strategy. Their telepathic abilities had failed to pierce Earth's defenses, and their spies had returned empty-handed. The psychic fog surrounding the planet had only thickened. "We must understand them," Typhora, the Rylorian diplomat, insisted, pacing in her chambers as she relayed her thoughts. "Their silence isn't an act of aggression, it's a statement. But what are they preparing for? Do they seek peace? Or do they wish to dominate?" The insectoid Rixians were less patient. General Zael, their brutal warlord, slammed a massive claw onto the table in the Council's war room. "Domination. It's the only logical explanation. The humans have already shown us that they can defeat our strongest forces without even breaking a sweat. What else could they want but to rule us all?" "The question is not if they want to rule us," said Ava Roth, her voice quiet but determined. As a Terrican diplomat, she had long been an advocate for peaceful engagement with humanity. But even she couldn't deny the gravity of the situation. The question is how they plan to do it. Earth's technologies are far beyond ours, beyond anything we've seen. But humanity is not the bloodthirsty conqueror you think they are, General. They have a different vision, a different destiny. Ava's words carried weight, But they didn't quell the rising fear within the council. No one wanted to face the truth that humanity had grown far beyond what they had ever believed possible. And now, with Earth's defenses in place and their weapons ready, they had no choice but to consider the possibility that their own survival was at stake. As the debate raged on, a new message arrived from Earth, this one not from Commander Max Keller, but from the highest echelons of Earth's government. It was a direct transmission to the Federation Council, encoded and carefully worded. The message was clear. Earth had made its intentions known, and it was offering a choice. To the Galactic Federation, the message began. Humanity has risen from the ashes of its own past to become something more, something capable of shaping the future. The time has come to choose. You will either stand with us as equals, or you will face the consequences of your continued interference in our destiny. This is the last warning we will issue. Choose wisely. The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the council in stunned silence. Eva's heart sank. This wasn't a plea for peace. It was a challenge. The Federation had been given an ultimatum: submit or face the wrath of a humanity that had spent centuries preparing for this very moment. The council chamber erupted in chaos. Some screamed for immediate action, an all-out assault on Earth's defenses. Others called for diplomacy, desperate for some way to avoid an all-out war. But Eva knew one thing for certain. The galaxy had just crossed a point of no return. Back on Earth, Commander Max Keller stood in front of a massive holographic map, his eyes scanning the galaxy's star systems. Humanity was ready. No, more than ready. They had waited for this moment for far too long. And now, the Federation would either bend to their will or suffer the consequences. Behind him, the lights dimmed. The Eclipse Protocol had done its job, but the real test was still to come. Humanity had never been so prepared for war, and yet the cost of victory weighed heavily on Keller's mind. He had one question burning in his chest. Would the galaxy choose to stand with Earth? Or would it all come crashing down in flames? In this part, Earth's ultimatum has been delivered, and the Federation faces the stark reality that Earth is no longer just a passive player. It is an undeniable force. As the Council debates their next move, Avaroth continues to advocate for a peaceful solution, but the overwhelming fear and uncertainty among the Federation's leaders suggest that a violent conflict may be unavoidable. The stage is set for an epic showdown between Earth and the rest of the galaxy. The Federation was paralyzed. The choice had been laid before them: bend to humanity's will, or face the full might of a species that had long been underestimated. The ultimatum from Earth had left the galaxy's leaders divided, unsure of how to proceed. Diplomacy had always been their first line of defense, but the human message was clear. Time for negotiations had passed. They had been given their chance. In the heart of the Federation, panic set in. The various factions of the Council could no longer ignore the gravity of the situation. Cypher, the Relorian diplomat, had been the first to break the silence. "We cannot yield to them," she said, her voice trembling with a mix of fear and resolve. "What will be next? Will they demand our homeworlds? Will they demand our entire fleets? No species has ever wielded such power over the galaxy. We cannot allow them to set the terms of our existence." General Zale, his insectoid face twisted in anger, slammed his fist onto the council table. "The humans are weak," he hissed. "We should strike now, before they grow even stronger. They have shown us nothing but contempt. A quick strike, and we can crush them before their power becomes insurmountable." But Avaroth, the lone voice of reason, shook her head, her expression resolute. "No, if we attack Earth, we will be committing galactic suicide. These are not the humans we once knew. They are something far more dangerous, something we do not fully understand. If we force them into a corner, they will respond with a fury we can't predict. The debate raged on, but Ava's words were beginning to gain traction. The fear of facing Earth's wrath was real, and the cost of a full-scale war with humanity was something the Federation could not afford. A delicate, fragile peace had reigned for centuries, and now the prospect of that peace shattering seemed imminent. Meanwhile, on Earth, Commander Max Keller stood in the nerve center of humanity's military command. The days following the Federation's message had been filled with tense preparation. The last few years had been spent developing new technologies, and Earth's fleet was now unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Earth's weapon systems were so advanced that even the Federation's most seasoned military tacticians were unsure how to counter them. Keller knew that the Federation would respond soon. Whether through negotiation or war, the galaxy could not sit idle for long. Humanity had been patient, but now they were ready to take their place as equals among the stars. Status update, Keller called out to the communications officer. All fleets are in position, Commander. Eclipse protocol is fully operational. Earth is ready for whatever comes next. Keller nodded, his mind heavy with the weight of the responsibility. He had seen what the Federation could do. He had seen the brutality of the Rixians, the manipulation of the Zilkar, and the cold calculations of the Relorians. But none of that mattered anymore. Earth was not going to be pushed around. They would either be allies or adversaries, but one way or another, humanity would no longer live in the shadow of the galaxy. The Federation had one final choice: accept Earth's rise and join in the new order, or face the wrath of a species that had learned, adapted, and fought for its place in the stars. Across the galaxy, fleets were mobilizing. The Council's decision would soon be made. The dawn of a new era was on the horizon, and it would either be a time of peace or a time of war. But humanity had already made its choice, and the galaxy would never be the same again. In this final part, the tension reaches its apex. The Federation is torn between war and diplomacy, with each faction holding different views on how to handle Earth's newfound power. On Earth, Commander Max Keller prepares for the inevitable outcome, knowing that the future of humanity in the galaxy depends on this pivotal moment. The story concludes with a sense of finality, as humanity steps into a new era of strength, leaving the fate of the galaxy hanging in the balance.